In reflecting on this time of celebration, I wrote these words that reflect my thoughts. And it's John Gage's Declaration of Interdependence, renewing our sacred covenant with creation and with each other. On this day, July 5th, the day after the 4th of July, I would like to conduct what people in the corporate world call an after-action review. To me, this means taking an evaluative look at the 4th of July, this enormous celebration of nationalism and independence with displays of military might and fireworks. Certainly, there is health in being independent and self-sufficient. But I want to take a deeper look at what this means for us and ask us if independence in itself and by itself is enough. Is this necessarily how we define our sense of nationalism? For the past few years, many among us have developed deep concerns for our national health. Many of us, including many of our leaders and their followers, speak disparagingly of anyone with a different point of view, speak disparagingly of people of color, of people from other countries seeking refuge and asylum. We have seen and heard people assaulting each other physically and verbally. The disturbing voices of hatred and violence, voices of white supremacy, voices calling for violent suppression of free speech and the right of public assembly. And we have noticed that these voices are emboldened lately by the rhetoric of political leaders who encourage violence and seek to create deep divisions among us. This leads me to ask the question with mounting urgency: are these voices expressing who we really are? Are these voices strengthening our republic? And I say, no, they are not. In response to a misguided emphasis on independence and the refusal or the failure to respect each other's and our humanity, I'm urging us to look more closely at interdependence as the quintessential characteristic of a strong nation. I am wanting to measure our sense of national pride and strength by the way we care for our people, the way we care for the earth, the way we stand up of liberty and take seriously our role as a world leader for democracy. It seems to me that we need to affirm this criteria as a powerful sense of mutual reliance that makes us strong and free and eager to build a social order that champions interdependence and honors the sacred tenet of our freedom, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Interdependence. And it occurred to me that the term synergy comes very close to that. Synergy, which is the interaction of two or more entities such that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Interdependence really represents. It involves a win-win approach. During my tenure as executive producer of Kentucky Homefront, once I was negotiating a contractual agreement with an agency representing an artist that I wanted to appear on Homefront. And I saw in his maneuvering that he was actively trying to negotiate the most he could get for the least he could do. And that was bogging us down and coming to a mutually satisfactory agreement. Finally, somehow it occurred to me, and I said to him, "Hey, brother, I don't want to win if it means you have to lose." There was a silence as he considered this unexpected statement, uncharacteristic of most negotiations, unfortunately. But after a brief pause, he came back with a completely different tone, one that was willing to consider an agreement that was mutually beneficial, a win-win situation. And he seemed now to trust me. So we concluded our wrangling in a more amicable way, in which we each felt honored and respected. And I'm suggesting that this is the type of synergistic communication that I want to see as an alternative to the creative cooperation. The essence of synergy is to value differences, to respect them, to build on individual strengths, and to compensate for individual weaknesses. The person who is has the humility and the integrity to recognize his or her own perceptual limitations and to appreciate the rich resources available through interaction with the hearts and minds of others. This, by the way, is the political genius of Abraham Lincoln in his idea of a team of rivals. That led him to build a strong cabinet that invited and honored a plurality of perspectives. These days, people who have a different point of view from the leader are often fired for being disloyal. And from a biblical perspective, when I consider true interdependence, I think of the word covenant, which is a sacred commitment between two entities. I think of Noah's experience of the great flood, which ended with God's covenant with the earth, symbolized in the rainbow. I am also thinking of Jesus' words during the Last Supper with his disciples, where he took the chalice of wine and said, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you." What a powerful symbol of covenant, a sacred promise, a soulful commitment. In considering what interdependence means, I also think of Martin Luther King and King's dream of the beloved community. These are Dr. King's words. The aftermath of nonviolence is the creation of beloved community, while the aftermath of violence is tragic bitterness. Love is creative. Love builds up and unites. Hate down and destroys. The aftermath of the fight with fire method is bitterness and chaos. And the aftermath of the love method is reconciliation and the creation of the beloved community. It is this type of spirit and this type of love that can transform opposers into friends. It is the love of God working in the lives of all of us. This is the love that may well be the salvation of our civilization. Amen to Dr. King. This beloved community of which he spoke is based on learning to listen to each other in respect for our common humanity. It's more than just being polite, more than being politically correct. It's an enduring commitment to a sacred covenant of cherishing each person's humanity. And this covenant is the defining characteristic of who we are and how God intended us to dwell together. Recently, a friend who was lamenting the deep divisions among us said to me, "What we need is an alien outer space, an alien from outer space to attack the earth. That will bring us together." But as I remarked, it occurred to me that we are indeed already being attacked by an alien, a common enemy known as COVID-19. But as I see the controversy among us about how to respond to this epidemic, I wonder, is the pandemic bringing us together as a people? Are we coming together to take the necessary steps to defeat this common enemy? Are we guided by a sense of interdependence? Following the protocols of safety requires a covenant which we agree to protect and keep each other safe. The actions of wearing the mask, washing our hands, using hand sanitizer, disinfecting surfaces, and social distancing are ritual of our covenant with each other to protect us from the disintegrating effects not only of the virus, but also of an overemphasis on individualism. It's time to balance our independence with a renewal of our commitment to the covenant of interdependence. Let this be the essence of our patriotism, that we care for each other and cherish our common humanity and our interdependence. It means listening to each other and mutually respecting each other. It means learning to love our enemies. During our celebration of our nation's birth and emergence as a world leader, let us pause to ask the difficult questions. And the chief question is not so much about our ideologies, leading one to ask, what is the root cause of this daunting darkness that challenges us and threatens us? It's more a question of our values. What about the greed that shackles us? What about our penchant for placing our own needs above the common good? And we, as people of faith, are called in a important way to respond to this troubled time. In his Sermon on the Mount, Jesus taught us, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden." Our faith communities have a unique role to play in resisting the forces of hate, racism, violence, disrespect, misguided nationalism, and the forces of darkness that seek to divide and defeat us. Because we have seen the light, because we have felt the indwelling light, because we are transformed by this light, it is now up to us to manifest the light, so the rest of the world will see and know the truth, that love will prevail. We are the bearers of this message. We are the beacon of light set up on a hilltop when the world in darkness is searching for the light. We must manifest the imperative for liberty and justice for all and actively stand up in faith to offer hope to the world. We need to look at our values and ask, what about the poor? What about climate change? What about human rights and civil liberties? And how does our relationship with divine spirit speak to these questions? Are we only about ourselves? Or is there consideration? And that would be, what about our souls? Who do we serve ultimately? What values should determine our responses to the crises we face? At the core of it all is the simple teachings that come from the sources of spiritual wisdom. That it is better to love than to hate, better to heal than to wound, better to speak truth softly than to scream invectives at each other. Better to respect each other and honor our humanity than to denigrate and degrade each other with vitriol and hate. Better to give than to receive. And so much better, St. Francis' prayer. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. I want to share one of my favorite Tim Krekel songs, and it's when I first heard him sing it, and it was released posthumously on his album Sings Up the Sun, a song that he wrote called Searching for the Light. Things we don't understand, things beyond our control, things no matter how hard we try, we'll never know. So we put our faith in a higher plan that things will be, and pray that those leading the way are moving toward the light. Them that have too little, too much. Seems we ought to build a bridge and put the two in touch. Doesn't really matter if they're on your left or right. Everybody needs a hand. We're all searching for the light. And the winds blow and the rains fall, and the water lies around us all. In the bleakness of the darkest night, as we struggle with all our might, find our way to higher ground and keep hope in our sight. Yes, we all could use a hand. We're all searching for the light. Waters rise around us all in the bleakness of the darkest night as we struggle with all our might to find our way to higher ground and keep hope in our sight. Yes, we all could use a hand. We're all searching for the light. Everybody needs a helping hand. We're all searching for the light. In the aftermath of our national celebration, the 4th of July, I'm searching for the light. Not the light that flashes from bombs bursting in air, not the light that flashes from fireworks, but the light of divine wisdom that shines in our souls to unify us. That light that informs us the way we look at each other. The light that dispels the shadows of darkness. This, for me, is the deeper meaning of this national holiday. That I will give myself each day to declaring our interdependence and affirming that it is we, the people, who continually create this great nation based on balancing our individual liberty with independence. It is knowing that we are mutually reliant and that it is this interdependence that makes us strong. We are independent individuals as an interdependent whole, guided by a strong sense of synergy in which the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. I'm inspired by Dr. King's message and his idea of the beloved community. And I think about his stride toward freedom. His stride was not that of an army marching lockstep. It was not about military force. It was about soul force. His stride set the pace for many marches. And it's been just over 50 years since we lost Martin Luther King Jr. And we have grieved. And we've also perhaps been waiting and wishing for a prophet, a powerful, righteous, and honest leader who would again, by the strength of her character, step into Dr. King's shoes and lead the way. His wisdom, his courage, his prophetic voice, his relentless. The only way to pay honest tribute to this man and his legacy is to stride with him. There are many strong voices, but Dr. King is not here. There are many courageous souls who stand tall for justice, but no Dr. King. There are many good people in stride with Dr. King, and that is the point. It's up to us not to wait for a prophet, but to carry the torch of liberty each day. So I'm calling each one of us to realize that each one of us needs to step up and be a leader every day in the workplace, in our places of worship, in our public gatherings, in our committee meetings, everyday backyard conversations with our neighbors, just talking and speaking the truth to each other in mutual respect. So let us optimize our different experiences and perspectives by coming together in true interdependence, respecting each other's humanity, and rising up to make America, not by bullying or hateful speech or denigrating others, but by cherishing our individuality while also affirming our interdependence. We, as people of faith and believers in our spiritual heritage, must live out the great commandment of loving God, loving our neighbor, and loving all creation. We must actively give ourselves to follow in humble obedience the wisdom that flows from the fountains of light in every spiritual tradition. Let us, in celebration of our home, also be unafraid to reevaluate where we stand and who we are. Let us recommit to be seekers of truth. Let us recommit to the principles of who we are as people and where we need to go in our stride toward freedom. My friend Janet Daugherty said these words this week to me. Let us build the city of God, bringing deeds of goodness right where we are. I want to invite